Welcome to the Light Up podcast. I am your host, Amy Wilkinson. I'm an intuitive guide and soul mentor, and through this podcast, you will receive conscious conversations, powerful downloads, and soul-stirring activations that will both support and inspire you to tap into your intuition, follow that higher calling, and live a life aligned with your soul. Because you are here to co-create a life rich in abundance, freedom, and deep joy, and to unleash who you truly came here to be. And we're here to help you discover how to access that. So let's dive on in and light up. Okay, welcome back to the Light Up podcast. I'm your host, Amy. So good to be here. Thank you for showing up and tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you are getting benefit and value out of what I'm putting out there and out of these episodes, which are deeply enjoyable for me to record and to put the offering out there into the darkness. So if it is landing, I am really grateful for that. And if it's not, that's okay too. If it is landing and you feel to share it, that would mean the world to me. You can also hit the subscribe or the follow button so that this podcast can continue to reach the ears and the souls of those who are ready to receive it. So today, we are talking about answering the calling of the soul. This is work that I do regularly in supporting people to align with and activate their soul mission and purpose, what they're here to do, and to really, create a life where they feel in deep alignment and deep attunement with their soul and with the guidance, their internal guidance system and their intuition. And that's what I want to talk about in today's episode, answering the calling of your soul, and why that is so important, right? Why that's what we're here for in this lifetime. Because we each have a soul's calling, right? Because each of us has a soul. So this isn't just reserved for a few who are lucky. We are each here for a reason. We have each chosen to be here, and this is definitely my belief system, and it is absolutely fine if you're not quite there in believing that. I think it's still really beneficial to receive different perspectives, and I appreciate that there's going to be things that resonate with you, and there's going to be things that perhaps you're not ready to receive, and that's okay as well. This is my perspective. This is what I have channeled, what I feel, what I believe. And that is that we each are a soul. We have a soul and we are a soul having a human experience. And embedded within our soul are contracts that we make before we come in, right? Contracts around what we're here to do, who we're meant to meet, our relationships, the experiences that we're here to live out in order to grow and learn and expand and elevate in our consciousness. Okay, this is why we are here in this earth school at this time. It is no accident. We each have a higher mission and a purpose for incarnating that's wired into our soul, into our unique blueprint. Something that we are here to do that no one else can do in the same way. It's entirely unique to us alone, just like our fingerprints, right? No two people have the same fingerprint. No two people have the same mission or purpose for being here, and no two people can act out their mission and purpose in the same way. No one else on this planet can do what you are here to uniquely do or to share or express. Right? This is, the way that we're being called to show up in this lifetime, the way that we're called to be of service, the impact that we're here to have. That is unique to you as the divine being that you are, being of light. Right? And we are all waves, of the same ocean of consciousness, but we are unique in the imprint that we're here to make, and the way that we are here to grow and expand and elevate in our consciousness. So we're actually given clues along the way as we progress through life, clues that link us up to what it is that we're here for. what it is that we're here to do, to be, to discover, to grow. And these clues might come in the form, often they do come in the form of signs or synchronicities that you bump up against in your life, messages that might come through your own intuitive knowing or hearing or seeing, or they might be delivered through others or through other mediums. Maybe it's a deep knowing within, a calling, a feeling that you're here for more, which, it can show up in our passions, in our loves, in the things that light us up, right? These are all really important clues around our soul's mission and purpose. So our soul, we are here, our soul is here to thrive. It wants to thrive, to be limitless, to be expansive, to be all of who we are in our fullness and in our completeness and in our wholeness. Our soul has a bigger plan for us. It's like it holds the master plan of our life, and that's one that we can't necessarily understand or envisage with our unlimited perceptions. So it's certainly not one that we can in this moment in time get our head around, literally. But I can tell you that it is so much vaster and bigger than we allow ourselves to believe. It's bigger than we can comprehend with our mind. We are each here for so much more than we even allow ourselves to access and to receive and to know. So much more. But what happens is so many of us hold ourselves back from even allowing ourselves to follow that calling within, that nudge, that niggle, that knowing. So much of the time we dismiss or ignore the messages that are coming through from our soul, which will appear to us via our intuition. Okay, we ignore them if there's not sufficient knowledge or evidence or reason or logic to back up that feeling or that heart knowing or our desires. Because our soul often speaks to us through our desires, but whether or not we give ourselves the space to tap into that, to, I guess you could say, luxuriate in what those desires are that are coming through, right? Unless we're doing that, we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to live in alignment with soul. Okay, so much of the time we're not allowing ourselves to tap into those desires. So we hold ourselves back. We hold ourselves back because it feels too unsafe, too unpredictable, unknown, too uncomfortable. Because our mind needs that certainty. Our mind needs that safety. Our nervous system is wired for safety. And this is the paradigm that we've been brought up in. Safe, known, controlled, and predictable. This is what we've been brought up in, and this is what then creates the reality that we are living in, that we are seeing, because we are always creating as beings, as soul. We are here to create. Everything here was created from a thought or a feeling or an idea or a desire. It was first implanted in our heart, it first came through our soul, or it came as a inspired idea. And so our intuition becomes underutilized because of these programs and this paradigm that we've been brought up in, one that values our mind and our intellect over our intuition. Because we're not taught in schools how to harness it, how to utilize it, even how to understand what our intuition is. Instead, we're taught to place so much value and so much importance on our mind, and often to only operate in the realm of what we can perceive with our limited 3D senses, right? That of sight, and touch and smell and taste. Anything outside of that, we don't go and explore so much. So for many of us, our intuition and our psychic senses, which by the way, we all have access to, they are innate senses within us. But if we're not really utilizing them, they become more redundant. So it doesn't mean that we don't feel or sense or notice the messages and the guidance, because quite often we do. But is it enough? Is it enough of a sign? Is it enough of this certainty for us to take that inspired action, for us to do the thing that might scare us or make us feel uncomfortable? And quite often, it's not, because the mind is going to come in telling us the stories and all the reasons why we shouldn't go there. It's unsafe. What will people think? What will happen if I fail? Those are the different loops from the mind that we continue to get stuck in, which can really stop us from moving forward in alignment with our soul and moving forward on this path of expansion. Okay, so whether it's leaving a job that you know is no longer fulfilling you, but you stay because you value the security over the unknown potential fulfillment of doing something new or taking a road less traveled. Okay, so we value the certainty and the known. Or perhaps it's a relationship that you know in your heart is not for your highest good. You sense that there might be something else for you. But the fear of leaving and taking that action and not knowing, not having the certainty of what lies ahead is just far too great that it becomes crippling. So there's a couple of ways that our mind can keep us trapped and stuck and limited. These are a couple of those ways, but there is a myriad of ways. And so how do we start to begin to navigate a path aligned with and guided by our soul, particularly when it feels so scary and unfamiliar? So these are, what I feel are 5 key resources that you can use, key steps, if you'd like, to just start to move more into resonance with your soul, what you know in your heart, that calling. And the more that you give some room for that, the more that you tune into that. For those of you that have done this, and we've probably all done this in different ways, to different extents in our life, right? You know when you start to tap into that it is very hard to ignore. Right? When you really know this is something that I need to do, it becomes harder to ignore it than to follow that path. And this is what I'm really passionate in my work. In my work is supporting people to go from where they are now to really where they want to be if they're honest with themselves. And then moving through what are the things that are keeping us stuck or limited, and where did they come from? What are those beliefs? What are those subconscious beliefs? Because where we create and where we manifest from, and I talk about this a lot, it's from our subconscious mind, right? Which is from our programming. So sometimes what we need to do is we need to start to tell a different story. We need to remind our nervous system that we are safe, that we can do the thing and still be safe. And these are things that I hope will help. These are some tools that I hope will help. So number 1 is about giving ourselves the space and the opportunity to connect with our desires. And our desires aren't our needs. It's really important to distinguish the difference. I don't think so much of our desires as our needs and our wants in life, because when we're tuning to that, it feels like we're coming more from a place of lack and limitation because we don't have it. Our desires feel like it's more something that's arising from within, from our soul. So I like to think of desires as a gateway into this communion with our soul. So a way that you can tap into this, if you're unclear about what it is that you desire, is you could ask yourself, or you could journal on, what would you be doing? How would you be living and even feeling if you knew that all your prayers are answered? If you knew that there were no limits, what would you ask for? What would you put out there to the universe and ask for if you knew that the answer was going to be yes, that it was a done deal? What would that be? And here's the thing, you can have a lot of fun with this. You can really go to town with this, because this is your private space. You might like to journal. You might like to do this in a meditation. You might just like to really contemplate, what is it I truly desire? And here with our desires, we go deeper than the mind, right? So you want to really access your heart here, heart frequency. So that's number one, desires. Desires is the first step. We first need to know what it is that we want. Number two is starting to establish a daily practice where you start to connect in with your soul, right? It's that part of us that is, was, and always has been. It's that wise part of us that is observing the thoughts, right? So when we come home to ourselves, this is what this is about. We connect to any practice that helps you to do that, whatever that might be for you. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's going for a really conscious walk in nature where you just start to open up and where you start to connect to something bigger than you, than your body, than your mind. Maybe it's a prayer practice that you have. Maybe it's yoga that brings you into that alignment with your soul, brings you home. And we've all had this experience in some way or another. Maybe it's a breathwork practice, a ritual, a dance, right? You feel into who you are beyond the mind, beyond your ego, beyond the roles and the stories, beyond your body. You tap into your vastness, into your limitlessness. Right? So that's number two, establishing that practice. Come home to yourself. It's the most important date that you can have every single day before you do anything else. Check in with you. Number three, each day set an intention, make a conscious choice to be guided by your intuition. And when you do this, you'll start to notice the signs and the synchronicities that are leading you. If you think it's a sign, it's a sign. You don't need to ask for a signing a sign. So notice what's showing up in your environment, in nature, through a song lyrics that come on the radio, through a message that someone has for you. It might even be someone that you run into at the store that speaks to you and says something to you that you know is specifically for you. It's like a message from your soul. This is what starts to happen. The synchronicities show up when we make that intention to be guided by our intuition. And you can consciously do this each day. That's number three. And then number four, and this is really important, you start to take the inspired action. Right? Inspired action comes through our intuition, through our soul. And you can ask that wise part of you, call it your higher self if you will, call it your soul, call it spirit. You can ask that aspect of you, what would you have me do today? Where would you have me go? Who would you have me talk to? You start to then take that inspired action. You listen and you take one step at a time, even if it scares you. And there's no guarantee in what's going to be on the other side of that step or that action. This is the faith part, right? So particularly if it scares you, you do the thing because it means that you are on the precipice, you are on the cusp of expansion. If it's something that takes you out of your comfort zone, great. Okay, so this number 4 is really important. We need to do the thing even when we don't feel ready. But you take one step at a time, and quite often through your guidance system, you're only going to be given one bit of information, right? Which might be on one particular day, go and talk to so-and-so, or send your resume to this person, or connect with this person, or write a blog post. Whatever it is, you do the thing. It might be something that you would least have expected. Okay, so that's really important. Then number 5, you trust that your soul is guiding you. You are not alone on this journey. This is why I call it this manifestation process. It's a co-creation. You are moving alongside spirit, your soul, and you're being guided and you're being led. So you anchor into trust and faith over the fear stories that are being projected by your mind in order to keep you safe and in the predictable. You can remind yourself that you are safe just as you are, and that you can do what you are being guided to do, whatever that is. Right? The only way is through. We can't skirt around the outside and just stay in places where we feel safe or comfortable, because we are not going to reach that level of growth and expansion if we always stay dancing around the boundaries and the outskirts. We need to be able to go through where that resistance is. So when you're in faith, you move into a place where you act from an energy that it is done. It's a knowing. Because here's the thing, you wouldn't have the idea. That feeling wouldn't be planted inside you. You wouldn't have that calling in your heart if you weren't able to follow it, if you didn't have the capacity to follow it. Whatever it is, if that seed has been planted within you, it is because it is something that you are meant to be doing, that you are here to do. And the prerequisite is not that it's easy, safe, comfortable. No, it's actually the opposite of that. If it's something that triggers you, if it's something that almost takes your breath away and makes you feel uncomfortable, even more reason to take that half step. Okay? So often when we're in the worry, we're either trapped back in the past or we're projected into the future, fearing something that may or may not even occur. But when we come back into this present moment awareness, which is where all our power lies, in the present moment, it's the only place we ever need to be. We can remind ourselves that all is well, that we are safe, and that we can take that next guided step, just the one, and then know that the next step to take will reveal itself in divine timing, and then the next after that. So it's really important in this process not to get too far ahead of yourself. You're just going to be shown what that next step is. If you struggle with this, if this is something that really gives you this visceral experience of fear, scared, worry, then I suggest you working with someone that can take you through this process, someone that can help guide you, a mentor or a coach. Because I know when I've gone through really big leaps in my life and the different ways that I've had, having someone on the sidelines to keep me accountable and to encourage me and to remind me of my capacity and to remind me that I'm here to do that, whether that's, a loved one or a friend or a coach. It's so important that you call on that support. because I really believe that we are moving into an age of miracles, and it is more of a requirement than ever before that we finally do the thing that lights our soul on fire, where we feel deeply expanded and fulfilled and alive. That is what we're here for. So this calling inside of you, it's only going to get stronger, right? That flame is only going to burn brighter, and there's not the option to ignore it, I believe. So I hope that these 5 practices have helped. And I'm emphasizing the word practice because if this feels really unfamiliar for you and it feels challenging for you, my suggestion is just to keep going and keep going through these 5 steps regularly each day. So I hope that helps, loves. I know it's not always an easy journey. I am on this with you. Let me know how you found this. If you've got any questions, get in touch with me. You can always jump into my Instagram, Amy_thelightplace, or send me an email, amy@thelightplace.com.au. Sending you so much love on your journey. We'll talk again soon.